Hey everyone, thank you very much for stopping by. It's your old pal, Brother Jonathan. And today what we're going to do, we're going to create a template. We're going to create a template that you can use to create a song for commercial success. Of course, I think when you go into Pro Tools, they have templates already set up. But we're going to set up a custom template that is based on my years of experience of the things that you will need to be able to create a song that will put you on the road to, or put you in the right direction towards creating something that is commercially viable. So let's get started. So just as a start, as I said, this is just a template to give you some direction. Let's try it with 12 tracks. So to start with, we're using Digital Performer. Digital Performer is what myself and all of the guys in our crew, this is what we use. We don't use Pro Tools, but the same principles that we'll be talking about here in Digital Performer can apply to any DAW. Most of these DAWs, or these digital audio workstations, all look the same. So we can just take what I do here in Digital Performer and do it in your DAW, and you should be okay. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go up to where we add the tracks, and we're going to add tracks, and we want to add, let's add first some mono tracks. Right, that's one, and that's command, what's the other thing? So we added 8 mono tracks, and then let's go up here and add some stereo tracks. And let's pull this over to the side so we can see the track names in the format. When you have 2 dashes like that right here, that means it's stereo. When you have 1 waveform dash, that means it's mono. Okay. And what I always do after I do anything, I save. I don't have auto save on, so I save. Okay, so now let's go over the interface so that we can make sure that we can work smoothly and comfortably and know what the heck is going on just by quickly glancing at the interface. So the first thing I see is that I want to expand the tracks and make them bigger. Since I am visually impaired, I want the tracks to be larger. Okay, so I hit the arrow button over there, and now I'm going to move this over again so that I have the tracks are larger now so that I can see them better. Also, another thing we're going to want to do is make sure that we know the tempo. So if you're working with samples, or if you're working with loops and you know the tempo, you're going to put that into your beats per minute tempo, so that when the song is playing and when you start making cuts and things like that, everything will line up properly. You can also check the tempo against the loops, the sound of the loops and the sound of the samples, by having your metronome turned on. So that's something to be aware of. Have your metronome ready to go and have your tempo set to where it's supposed to be, as well as your timing factor, whether it's 4/4 or 3/4 or whatever. You should have all of this set up before you get started in loading in audio and working on your production. I forgot to mention that before you start, you want to also be aware of these properties here. The system properties of your production. What is the sample rate that you're going to use, and what is the clock? If your loops or your audio that you are going to be working at is in 48, the best thing to do is to leave your production in 48. If your loops or your audio or whatever you're working with is in 96, if your computer can handle 96, it's best to change this to 96. Also, a determining factor that's going to be really, really important when you're doing your productions, especially if you are going to be recording and matching your recordings with the audio that you import, is this: the buffer size. The buffer size is going to be very important because this can cause all type of weird artifacts and delays that you will hear, which will throw you off in your mixing. It will throw you off in your tracking. The whole buffer thing, this is a whole big issue. That's something that you want to do some research on. What is the best buffer size? If you can get by with a buffer size of 64 or less, then it's best to do that. If not, I say my own personal opinion is, especially if you have to be doing tracking on top of the audio that you will be importing, that 128 is about as high as you can go without causing weirdness. And if your computer or if your interface is connected to another interface or another device via optical or SPDIF or AES EBU, then you have to consider what is the clocking source. Are you going to be clocking from internally in your own interface, or are you going to be clocking from an external interface? These are things that you have to look into to consider to be able to get the best audio quality as possible in your production. These things are very important. If you don't want your production to sound hazy or cloudy or muddy or murky or whatever other adjectives you want to use, then these are definitely some considerations that are very important. Okay, so right now, let's go over to the mixing board and see how we're going to set that up. So we have our tracks, and again, most digital audio workstations all look the same, Pro Tools and so forth. I'm sure you recognize all of this stuff with the sends and the inserts here, the sends here, solo, mute, and all the rest of that stuff there. No big deal. So everything is at 0 dB right now on the faders. Fine. Everything is straight up and down as far as mono. That's fine. So let's start to set up the channels so that when we start the mix, we know what we have. So let's take what I usually do. The first channel, I usually make my vocal channel. Let me just get this out of the way here. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to come over here and we're going to name the channel Lead Vox. And then I have the next channel I usually name Ad-libs. In case you have a second vocals that you want to highlight. Then usually what I do is I use these for like separating drums and bass and keyboards and things like that. But you don't know what you're going to do as far as these other mono tracks are concerned. So let's go to the stereo tracks. We know that we may have, let's say you may have stereo drums. If you're doing it from loops. And then let's say you might have keys. This is just, again, an example. There's no hard set format. And then let's say you have what else could we have? We got over here, we could have, because we have we usually use lead guitars. Let me just put lead guitar over here. So you get the point. You get the gist of it. Make these, whatever your tracks are, you make these. But then this is what we want to do in addition to that. We want to set up some aux tracks. The aux tracks are going to be important. And this is one of the most important things about creating a hit record. It's not compression. It's not limiting. The most important thing about creating a hit record is the effects. It's the effects that makes a hit record. It's not a compressor. Okay? That's one thing a lot of people who look at YouTube, they hear all this talk about compression, limiting. That when it comes to make a hit record, that stuff is meaningless. So let's go to add aux track. Let's add 4 aux tracks just to get started. Well, let's make it 3 off the bat. So what are we going to do for these aux tracks? The first thing we're going to do, we got the aux track. Let's name the aux track. What we're going to do first. First one we're going to do is reverb. Then we're going to come back. Then the next one we're going to do is what? We're going to do mono delay. And then the next one what we're going to do, we're going to do chorus. That could also be a doubler. And then the next one we're going to do is stereo. This is 80% of a hit record right here, these 3 things. These 3 things right here are 80% of a hit record. It's not a compressor, it's not an equalizer, it's these 3 things right here. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go over to our audio track, our vocal track. And what do we need on the inserts of the vocal track? Well, the first thing we're going to need, some people will say, oh, I got such and such of UAD channel strip. Well, I got a plug-in alliance channel strip. Everybody doesn't have that. We're going to do this simple. We're going to do this with the stuff that comes stock out of the box in your digital audio workstation. So what comes stock out of the box? First thing we're going to put on here is a equalizer. We're going to go to Motu has a very good equalizer called the Masterworks equalizer. Then after the equalizer, okay, so we have that. Then after the equalizer, we're going to put the Masterworks compressor. The Masterworks compressor is a multi-band compressor, which is fine. We'll put that. Now, if you wanted to also, what I like to do on the lead vocal, I put the gate. Some people don't put the gate, some people do. I want the gate because the gate makes everything tight. Masterworks gate. Okay, and then what I would do is do the same thing on this ad-lib channel, and I could also do the same thing on the guitar. I won't do all of that here now because it would take up too much time, but I would copy these 3 effects to each of the channels that's going to highlight a part that is going to be prominent. Let's say if you have a guitar part that's going to be prominent, you would use these 3 effects. If you have a vocal part that's going to be prominent, you can use these 3 effects. Again, these are must-haves. You must have these on your tracks when you are, before you start mixing. Put these, you have your template set up with these on your tracks, and it'll make your mixing much faster. So we know that we want to have a reverb on our lead vocals. So what we'll do is we'll have the template set up so that we have stereo bus 1 and 2 go to the reverb. So down here we have the reverb coming out of the same outs as everybody else, but the input to the reverb is going to be bus 1 and 2. So that when when the person is singing, this reverb here, you see the reverb, the amount that's going to the reverb aux will come from bus 1 and 2 and come down here and go into this reverb channel. So then let's go up here and put a reverb on here. So we'll go to Mode 2 and we'll put on a Mode 2 reverb. Doesn't matter which one. Proverb. Okay. Again, this is just a template. I'm not going to give you any examples of how it all sounds, because that's your job to make it sound the way you want it to sound. But chorus, let's put on chorus here. And the Mode 2 chorus. And then we have the stereo delay. And we're going to put on the stereo delay, which I always use, and that's stereo delay is one of the most important effects that you have in your arsenal, is the stereo delay. There's practically no other effect that is more important in creating a commercially acceptable hit record than a stereo delay. That's more important than anything. Okay, so let me take a minute to copy all of this stuff to make it look like it's supposed to look when it's set up properly, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we have everything set up. We have our inserts on our prominent channels. We have 4 empty channels that we could put anything on. We have our stereo channels with equalization on them, because most of the time when you're working with loops or samples, they're already processed. So I didn't want to have to put gates and compressors and things like that on them. At most, you might want to put equalization for the purposes of high pass filter or something like that. You know, maybe just something light and simple. But for the most part, everything's all set up. Now the next thing is very important, and that is groups. Groups is what's going to make the difference between your stuff sounding amateurish and hobbyist and professional. Why is groups important? Groups make your stuff sound full. Okay? You always say, why can't I get my stuff to sound full? It's because you're not using groups. Groups is what makes your stuff sound heavy and dense. It makes your mix sound like it's well recorded. It gives your mix a weight to it. So you want to set up groups. So what we're going to do, we're going to go up here. The way we're going to set up groups, we're going to use just a regular audio channel. We'll set up one group just so you can see how we do it. And we'll set up a stereo group. And so we're going to call the stereo group. We're going to call it, let's see now, where's that thing here? We're going to call it rhythm section. Rhythm section group. And then what we're going to do, this is not right here. What we're going to do to route the group, we're going to use our buses. So let's use bus 15 and 16. Let's see now. There it is, 15 and 16. And so what's the rhythm section? Let's say we're going to take, for the rhythm section, we're going to take the bass. We will continue to make the bass come out of the master stereo outputs, out of the master bus 1 and 2. That's fine. But what we're going to do, we're going to go up here to one of the sends, and we're going to send it to bus 15 and 16. So what does that mean? That means that the bass is coming out of 2 places. It's coming out of the master bus on its own channel, and it will be coming out of the master bus on the group channel. You see? Now what else can we send there? Let's send the, and like I said, you guys gotta excuse the mouse going all over the place. I am impaired, so please excuse me for that. Let's send the drums to 15 and 16. Drums is the rhythm section. And then let's send over the guitar to 15 and 16. Again, going to the rhythm section. Now, if I wanted to, I could create another track, group track. is create another group track called stereo. And this group track we'll call vocal group. Okay, we got the vocal group. We'll make this come in on 17 and 18. And all of our vocals, whether it's lead vocals, ad-lib vocals, or whatever, we'll make come in on 17 and 18. Now I had this going to mono delay, but just for all intents and purposes, we'll make it go on 17 and 18 to the group track. Same thing here, 17, 18 to the vocal group track. And if I wanted to, on the vocal group track, we can put the send for the mono delay there. And we're going to put on the delay. Where is it at there again? There it is. And so we have our mono delay on that. And that's pretty much how you set up a template for commercial success. This is the bottom line of what you're going to need. Now, of course, we're going to add a master bus processor, which you may or may not need, depending on if you're going to be mixing totally in the box or not. But if you are mixing totally in the box, let's put the master bus. I say if you're going to be doing this stuff, that the master bus should be left empty, so that when you send it to you should send yourself to a mastering facility with professional masterers and let them figure out what goes on the master bus. That's my opinion. So that's about it. This is Brother Jonathan. I hope this has been of some value to you, at least to get you started. And again, I appreciate you guys stopping by, because I know there are a lot of other YouTubers who are a lot better than I am at making these videos. So I appreciate it very much. YouTube has killed my channel for some reason. Who knows? So if you can put a like on the video, I'd appreciate it. And if you need any help with anything as far as your productions is concerned, reach out to me at newblackmusic.net, and we'll definitely get together and make something happen. This is Brother Jonathan. God bless.